Hey,
Hi,
how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm here in beautiful Cincinnati today.
Oh, nice, nice. I've never been.
Yeah.
I hope to go one day.
It's a cool place. When I was a kid, there was a sitcom called WKRP in Cincinnati that was on. It was about radio DJs, and
Oh,
the beginning of the show, there's this famous fountain that's here in Cincinnati of a woman with water coming out of her hands, and I'm looking at it right now. It's
okay.
pretty cool.
That's a nice view.
Yeah.
So how have you been? How's everything been going since, I mean, this is,
Everything,
yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
man, everything's been going good. It's like, we've been sitting, I wouldn't say we were necessarily sitting home the whole time, but we were, not doing shows for a really long time. So, um, it feels like, and then we did shows for a little while where we were just out, doing like, stuff we could get to,
Yeah.
without, if the tour got canceled, losing, millions of dollars,
Yeah,
so we
probably
were
not
out
the
doing,
best.
yeah, so we were going out and doing this and that.
Mhm.
And but it was weird, like we get on an airplane in New York and there'd be people in hazmat suits taking your tickets, and you'd have your masks on, and there's barely anybody on the planes at that. Well, that actually, that's not true, but that lasted a very short time. But um and you get into a van and everybody had their masks on, and you go into the backstage and nobody was allowed backstage. There were no guests, no crew allowed back where. And then you walk on the stage and there were 4,000 people smashed into a room with no masks on, and most of them were in Florida at that point, because Florida kind of opened up and down south opened up sooner. So it was just weird, like everything felt tentative, everything. So we opted to not do the tour last year, and play it safe, like I said. But it's like this year, like as time has gone on now, and we've done more and more shows, the frequency came up, and we started playing more and more places, and uh, it feels like there's an acceptance of what has gone on here now.
Yeah.
And even though this country is literally torn in half over it, it feels like at least we're going to be able to move forward, with some level of I don't know if I will say confidence, but at least, it feels
Pretty
like there's a little
comfortable.
bit of yeah, it feels like there's a little
Yeah.
bit of inertia behind us now, that like life's going to kind of get normal again. So it's been a great feeling, and people have been out, the shows have been full, and yeah, so it feels awesome.
And so during the pandemic, I understand that you went to Woodstock, New York to record this new album. Can you kind of explain that process, especially, with everything that's been going on?
Yeah, well, obviously we it was in the middle of a pandemic. The vaccines hadn't even been introduced yet, and as a matter of fact, I got vaccinated in Woodstock, the first time. So we didn't see anybody, um, like over the years, as your band gets more and more successful, more and more people have a stake and an opinion, and want to help you with what you're doing, so like an awful lot of people come in, and I become part of the process, and there's a lot of stuff coming through, and you generally are doing your record in New York and LA, which are unbelievably busy cities, and so much other stuff going on, and John and I both have other things going on in our lives and families, and like trying to deal with it's just nuts, um so we would get to a point, where there was just so much going on, and we still made our records, but for the first time since we were kids, when nobody cared about the records we were making, we were, so there's nobody around, we were, in a place where it was just us, it was just the band, and a couple engineers, and the lady that worked at the diner at the corner, and the FedEx guy. You know, that's about who we. You know, that's about who we saw when we were in, and some deer, and random hobos wandering down the railroad tracks behind the studio. Studio was in an old church.
Oh, wow.
That was built like in the mid 1800s, and really hadn't had much done to it since then, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it was built into a studio, but like they didn't, you know, like the congregation hall and such was pretty much the way it was, you know, when it was built. And we stayed in like the sacristy, or maybe the sacristy, maybe that's not what they call it, wherever the priests live, rectory. Down at the bottom of the hill.
Oh, wow.
So like you'd wake up at night and look out your window, and like this like church would be like up at the top of the hill with the moon behind it, and like you're going, oh, I'm gonna get murdered on my way up there, you know, like
just like a movie.
Yeah, exactly. But but you know, I think the byproduct of you know, it happening during that time, and it going on for so long, like nobody knew it was going to go on that long, you know, like you know, by that point we had been in the house for an awfully long time, even by the time that we you know, had started this record, you know, but it was just us, so we would go in every day, and you know, we'd work on the songs, and yeah, so I think, you know, it oddly made for a pretty pure record for us, you know. I don't know if that would have happened if, you know, the pandemic wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, I remember when I was looking over the titles of some songs, I that's kind of the idea that I got too. I mean, it feels like it really kind of poured into the idea behind the album. If like, you know, obviously that's just
Yeah.
my point of view, but
Yeah, well, that's the most important one for you, you know, like when
yeah,
you listen to a record, you know, what you pull out of it, you know. I think that this one's a lot more obvious than
oh
the
yeah,
rest, because everybody lived through the same thing, you know. But the odd thing about humans and music and writing songs and stuff is that like we're all kind of living through the same thing, you know, in one way or another, you know, like it's only a few emotions, you know, disappointment, anger, you know, like, you know, we all live through those things. And but I think, you know, when something like this happens that's so global, you know, I think, you know, it becomes obvious that we've been talking about what's happened in the last few years in our lives, you know, because, you know, there were some overarching things, you know, that are recognizable, you know.
yeah,
But
and I'm sure it helped.
I think most of the records
Yeah.
follow that same sort
Oh,
of
for sure.
pathway. Yeah.
Yeah, like especially, you know, names and just the idea behind them all, kind of like a when I was looking through it, like the first thing that came to my mind was like kind of like a rebirth process. I don't know how to explain it. It was
Mm,
like just going through that, and then, you know, with this new album and looking through the names of all those songs and just getting the idea of what's coming, just kind of it was relatable in a way, and I think that's especially what everyone's looking for right now, like how you mentioned.
yeah.
It's kind of
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, for
everyone can
sure.
understand.
I'm excited. Like the only real, you know, like we released a couple songs, you know,
Mhm.
so, you know, we've gotten some reaction, you know, on those songs. But to me, it's like the whole record is exciting to listen to. And I know that that might sound like an old guy thing to say, you know,
Yeah.
really, you know, because like nobody cares that much about full albums anymore. You know, it's all about, oh God, did you hear that song? You know, but like, I feel like, you know, for a band that's been putting albums out for a long time, it's like this package of songs is pretty awesome,
Oh,
you
I
know.
agree. I mean, I grew up listening
And
to you, so
oh, that's cool. That's cool. You know, another crazy thing is we have another 5 songs from those sessions too that we haven't even done anything with yet, and that's even more exciting because like when this was done and we listened to it, we were like, oh my God, that like feels like something we haven't done in a really long time.
yeah.
We got more of it, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not even like we didn't use the song because they weren't good. Like, you know, like sometimes, you know, you're like, well, those songs aren't great, you know, and you end up with 5 songs that like weren't great. Like that was not the case with these songs. Like we were just trying to figure out how to pick 10 songs
Yeah.
that made a record. You know, we weren't necessarily like, what are the 10 best songs? What are the 10 best songs we're going to
Mhm.
use? We just knew that that's, you know, we needed a record that length. And so we wanted to make sure that we could, take the journey, from beginning to end,
Okay.
with the songs that we chose.
So you mentioned a little bit about how it's kind of new from what you've been doing in the past for a while. Can you kind of explain what's new and old that's been incorporated into this album? Like, was there anything from the past or
Well,
that you wanted a new idea of?
well, I think John produced this. John chose to not like. Usually, what we do is bring a producer, and
Mhm.
when the band first started, we would go in with our friends who lived in Buffalo, and they would help us produce our records. And then we started bringing producers in, and the first couple producers ended up like crippled in chairs, and then the next couple never finished the records because John tends to like to really go deep on stuff, much deeper than I go. I'll just say it out loud. He burns people out, man. And so, so many records have been finished with other people, started with one person and finished with another. And this record, we didn't reach out for help, largely due to the pandemic, like I said, but we didn't reach out for help until a year into the process. So the record really got to sound like what we do,
Yeah.
And so the basis of it like was pretty pure, so I feel like like I said, since we were kids, that hasn't happened, where we were just sitting in a room together just playing until we were like, yeah, that sounds good, this sounds interesting, and so like I said, crazy byproduct, of this thing. And I got to grow tomatoes,
Oh,
which was
I
pretty
love
fun.
green tomatoes.
Yeah. I got to grow tomatoes. My daughter and I grew some tomatoes and some cucumbers and
My aunt does that. She lives up in New Jersey, and my mom calls her Snow White because she has the whole backyard is just, she just eats based off what she grows. And the animals
yeah.
just come up to the windows and
Wow.
she feeds them, and like they come daily.
Wow.
It's so funny to
Yeah, I was doing a
stuff.
good job. I was doing a good job feeding the rabbits and squirrels in my neighborhood as well. But we got a few tomatoes and stuff out of it. Once again, one of those crazy byproducts, of this like reset we just lived through. I got to spend like like a whole summer with my daughter.
Yeah.
What? Like I mean, summers. That's when we make hay in the summers. Yeah, and yeah. So I mean, it's a crazy thing, to live through. I don't even think we have any idea yet, like what we lived through. I know, like
It definitely hasn't hit for most. I
no way,
100%
man.
agree.
Yeah, kids, like kids who marched their way through this thing, just like nothing's going on.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
mean,
there was something going on, man.
it's
Like
crazy. I finished college right when the pandemic started.
right,
So I like just experienced a little bit of it. I cannot imagine
yeah,
the kids who had to start school and go through the whole process with it. I mean,
man. Could you imagine having me for your teacher? Like that's what my kid was dealing with. Like my daughter or my wife grew up in Tokyo,
oh,
so English is her second language, and she doesn't know anything about American history.
yeah.
So um, I was her teacher, and like man, we explored parts of our relationships I can't even explain, like
Yeah.
joyful and the opposite,
Yeah.
like yeah, because like I wasn't equipped for that, and I'm not gonna say I'm a genius or anything, but like I'm a college graduate. I've made my way through life, like, I'm thinking to myself, my God, like what's the majority of this country doing right now?
It brought
Like
a lot to light, that's for sure.
whew, thrust into this thing. Like how important are teachers, how important are healthcare workers, like all that kind of stuff, like yeah, really, like amazing time. And therein lies the title of the record, Swinging Back Again. I mean, some amazing things were brought to light. Some horrible and amazing things were brought to light through this whole thing. And I think it's good to recognize both those things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I understand that this is correct me if I'm wrong, but this is John's first LP that he produced in his career?
Yeah, well, we had produced records together with people. Like
Okay.
we produced records with Rob Cavallo, we produced records with Glenn Ballard. Like so we're not new to that game.
Yeah.
But when you decide that you're gonna take it on, it comes with a lot of other stuff too, because it's kind of up to you to get the songs together, So, and John never having been at the helm of that kind of thing before, and us with having the luxury of not having time constraints, which we had never had before, so this one took a little bit longer.
I'm sure that was a great time to not have to worry about
yeah
deadlines and such.
Sometimes deadlines are awesome. Because they sort of make you get to it. I think sometimes you can sit and walk yourself in circles till you're dizzy, and then it's tough to make a rational decision, when you're that dizzy.
Definitely.
But yeah, man, I think like I said, you can hear the purity of process in these songs. Like, I think a lot more than the past couple of records. Not knocking those records, the process was just like not even remotely similar. For the last few records.
And I have, what I really want to discuss is that music video, the Yeah, I Like You music video. What was the thought behind it? Well, like, how'd that come to be?
Well, John was thinking about, like the song is kind of about like the TikTok generation and sort of like quick fame and and that kind of stuff, and kind of recognizing, like the business we're in, it kind of all ends up being the same thing, you're trying to get out in front of people and they're doing a great job of it, right? These kids, and the technologies and such are pretty amazing, but you always wonder who's behind it, right? Like why am I seeing this all the time? Why am I seeing
algorithms?
Yeah, that's what I mean. And so I think, we've been lucky enough to have fallen into some, man. And aside from a couple of goofy things, like, we don't really partake in that at all, but we've become, pretty prevalent in the TikTok world right now, just because people sing our songs and cover our songs and make fun of our songs and whatever, it's like, it doesn't matter though, it's like you're in it. And, like we're at a point in our band now where, we're like 3 generations deep sometimes. These kids come to the meet and greets, and people who were coming to see our band in college, when they were in college, we were out of college by that point, but when they were still in college, and they brought their kids, and now their kids are bringing their kids, and we got 3 generations.
My family.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Like, we got 3 generations of kids here, and not to get too corny or anything, but like, generations, it's tough to connect people sometimes, man. And the fact that can happen, like, steams up my glass eye, like it does, like it's like, wow, this is really cool, and even if in a little way, it just feels really, really, I don't know, worthwhile or something. I don't know. It's cool.
No, I completely understand. I remember growing up, and like my dad, whenever he would drive me around, he always had this, it was always the same radio station, of course. Those classic rock, all that. And anytime the Goo Goo Dolls would come on, he like, turn it all the way up, and he'd be like, this is what I'm listening to. This is them. I've been to their concert, and this is what
we call folks like you car seat hostages.
I came to love it though. I mean, he's the reason I listen to rock and classic rock and alt rock and everything. And I remember when he found out that they were coming to, we bought tickets to the concert back in, as soon as we found out that you were coming to Jacksonville, my dad was like, God, they're coming.
Years ago.
Let's see what happens. Make it full circle. We've never gone, that's never been able to happen before. So
that's exciting. Well, anyway, man, I'm I'm super glad to hear that story. And no, I really like, no joke, and but I think, that all figures into, like being into the bloodstream kind of, and I think we've just been around long enough and haven't gone away. We keep coming through, we'll keep coming through town. I say that about that band Cheap Trick all the time. You know that band, Cheap Trick? Yeah, like they're a band that just, they're just always coming through, always. And people, they stay in their corner, because like, they just never stopped, they just kept, going. And I think, people, and I don't want to use the word nostalgia because it's not the right word. It's like, there's a comfort that you get from that song that you heard when you were in that car seat when you were a kid, like there's a comfort there, man. Somebody was responsible for you, and like that's a beautiful time in your life, and yeah, man, music's powerful.
It
Sure
really
is.
is. It really
Yeah.
is. So, it's been a couple years since you've been able to go on a tour like this, I would say, because you said that you went to some small
Yeah.
places. How are you preparing for that? What are you guys most excited for about this?
Well, I stopped eating for 3 months pretty much. and and I try to walk 15,000 steps a day. So because I got the COVID. Some people say the COVID-19. I think I got the COVID-25.
I agree. I'm right there with you.
So I spent a lot of time kind of trying to get my air back again and
Yeah.
stuff. I was noticing on the one-off dates, I was having a hard time kind of like hitting the notes and stuff. So it's not the first time in my career I've been challenged by that, but yeah. So but you get a little older, it gets a little harder, and yeah. So, but I think Johnny and I are everybody in the band's doing their best right now to get to the top of it here. It's going to be 100 degrees tonight when we play. So
Florida.
it's been crazy. Yeah. Oh, I should put a plastic bag on.
Oh gosh, that heat is something else. Let me tell you.
Oh, it's unbelievable, man.
Just
It's
walking the couple steps to get to my office, I'm like sweating bullets. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is
yeah,
today.
yeah. Well, Florida gets brutal. You're in Florida, right? Yeah,
Jacksonville.
Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, Florida gets brutal, man. It's
It's
like,
the past
yeah,
couple days too, because I thought it was gonna rain, and it's been, it'll be thundering all day, and then the rain won't hit until midnight, and I'm like,
yeah. It's
tricked us.
crazy. We've been in like Missouri and Kansas and those types of things. So like the humidity is just so thick,
Oh my God.
crazy. But hey man, we're doing shows and people are coming out and they're sitting there all they're sitting there getting baked and they seem fine. So
Exactly. That's all you can ask for.
they just want a rock show.
Exactly. So, we've been through pretty much most of what I wanted to
Great.
touch on, but is there anything that you specifically want to touch on for our readers and, the audience here in North Florida?
No, well, selfishly, I will say, just listen to the whole album, man. Take a listen from the beginning to the end. It's a trip, and the other thing I would say is we work with the Joe Torre Foundation, who does some great work. Go look with them or go look them up online and kind of check out some of the things they do. And we auction off and sell some guitars every night and been raising some multiple thousands of dollars for them as we've been traveling here. So if you can help out with that, that would be great.
Definitely. I'll make sure to mention that. I'll check it out too.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Of course. I had such a great time speaking with you, and thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me.
Okay, cool. We'll see you in Jacksonville.
See you then. Bye.
Okay, tell your dad I said hi.
I will.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.